So now I know from our diversity check in this audience, we've got every continent covered here except Antarctica. So I know now we're going to have a diversity of questions coming at our panel members from the audience. And there's microphones there for you to use, and I think there's a microphone right there for the audience. So who's got questions? Okay, right there. Diane.
I put them in the app and then realised we don't have a connection to the app, so.
Oh yeah, that's right. We don't have the app here. You've been very good about it. I hope you won a prize in the main part. You've been good about putting those questions in on the app. So
you can find out which sessions I'm interested in, because they're the ones that I ask the questions on. My question is, one of the challenges I think that we face is getting men to appreciate that diversity is not just a female issue. And I wonder whether we should stop talking about the number of women in senior positions and start talking about how we get smart thinking into organisations. Because if you talk about smart thinking in organisations, by definition, people have got to start thinking about diversity. So I'm just interested in the panel's thoughts on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the leadership is there actually to promote such a thinking, such an issue in their own organizations. And I think if you have the opportunity as a leadership of an organizations, you should trying out how this kind of issue could be placed very well, so that it could be the management attentions on that, and then trying to distinguish the barriers, the regulations that probably, or the framework which it could be set up in the organization itself, and then trying to break the ice, this thin ice actually, because the females actually has also a will to lead an organizations and to become acknowledged in an organizations, and they have a lot of capabilities that they could contribute to the organization itself. And teaming up a diverse background of the people working on that issue, so that we could really gain different perspective of different people in such an organization is very, very important. And that has to have also a sponsorship within the organization itself. I think that's very important. That is not that it is we need really a program, but we need the mindset change, and we need that everyone accept that the diversity is everyone's issues, and do it in that way as well.
Did you want to say something, Caroline? Yeah.
Yes, I would like to say something regarding the numbers. When I started to look at the university, at the organization where I work for, the management was actually very proud that they had finally hired some female faculty. But of course, but when you start to look at other issues within the organization and to do the smart thinking, you realize, yes, there is some new faculty there, but are they really utilizing the resources that they have? Are they really reaping the benefits of having these women there? And that's why I started to look at many data, as many aspects as I could, to see whether they were really utilizing the full potential of these women. Yes, they hired female workers, and this is what you listen in many women's conferences, the importance to hire the females. But what about once you have them there? Are you really utilizing the full potential in the organization or not? And that's why I realized with with the resources that they have in the university, if they really apply smart thinking and combine that the first action that they did by hiring us, that with other measures such as including us in other projects, they will get more benefits. I think that's something to take into consideration.
You know, Diane, I also use statistics too in my opening remarks. And, you know, I agree with your point. It's all about the smart thinking and bringing those people in and giving them an opportunity, you know, different people to contribute. But sometimes the statistics can be so impactful because the numbers are so woefully low. It's kind of a shock to people to recognize that. So I think there's a place to actually use numbers to make an impact. But ultimately, you know, as was said, we shouldn't have to have a women's forum. So actually, we're hoping someday there needs to be a men's forum. So, yeah. Yes, yeah, David.
Sorry if I may say something. In Malaysia, the culture is such that, you know, it's very uncommon to find women wanting to go to work in the port, because the port is considered a, you know, a so-called dirty area of the city, you know, dust and trucks moving in and out. But what happened is, over the last couple of years, Westports, what they did is they turned around the landscape of the port area to have a very appealing kind of feeling to people who want to go there, because it was full of greenery and plants and, you know, sort of to encourage the public or, you know, would-be potential port employees to come in and work. And many years ago, I mean, you know, if you ask someone whether he would like to go and work in the port, he would say no. But today, Ian, who is the CEO of Westports, is here. He can back me up. He'll say there are lots of people wanting to go to work in the port now because it's a beautiful place to work in. It's clean, environment, safety, you name it, you know. So I would say this is where you have smart thinking so that, you know,
right,
you could build up, you know, the diversity there.
Yeah, there's some stereotypes out there. I can remember when people would meet me for the first time and I'd introduce them and I'd say, you know, when I was port director, I'd introduce myself and I was the port director at Los Angeles. The first thing they'd say is, really? Like, because I didn't look like a port director. I followed an interim director that was about 350 pounds and looked like he could pick a container up by himself without a crane. And so there's a certain stereotype that, you know, and I think that's, you know, hopefully changing over time. But I experienced that through the 8 years as I was director, because most people were just surprised that, you know, when they looked at me, I didn't look like a port director. So, Mike, it's Michael, right?
Yes.
Mike.
Or Mike.
Mike, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with the first question and some of the comments that were just made. I don't think it's effective for us to think about diversity as something to achieve, but rather leveraging diversity is really smart thinking. Leveraging diversity and thinking of leveraging diversity as a tool, what we should really be asking ourselves is not, did we achieve some number in terms of race or gender or other things in hiring or establishing our staff in our workplace. Having worked in a very large corporation in the past in an aerospace industry, where we require smart people, skills, creative capability, innovation. One of the things we focused on the most when we interviewed at universities, when we hire new people, is teamwork. What has this person done as a member of a team? Can they work in teams? Do they like to work in teams? We really focus on teamwork, which is nothing more than leveraging diversity. And we really look to hire people that buy into teamwork, working in teams, and leveraging diversity. And to me, our focus was always, any of us, as we think about our business, our ports, what we want to accomplish, we're thinking about performance, we're thinking about solutions, we're thinking about innovation, and all of that requires successful teams, requires leveraging diversity. So if we think about diversity as a tool that we leverage and ask ourselves on a daily basis, are we leveraging diversity, then we are, in my mind, doing smart thinking. So it's not something to achieve, it's something to leverage.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. Other questions? Right behind Mike. Okay.
Sorry. I come from a very large global company, and we're based in Australia, but it's global. I have always worked in an engineering environment, and I have had the opportunities to recruit and assess remuneration and promotions for staff. I must say that gender never came into the equation. It was always based on merit and the number and the applicants. So I don't know how many times, when you look at statistics, is based on who has applied or how many have applied for the position or are eligible for the positions, rather than the fact that you have to get appoint somebody just because it's from a particular group or not from a particular group. So and I know that a lot of my colleagues, they never even think about gender when they actually make appointments or recommend promotions and so on. And we have got a fairly balanced organization. My CEO is a lady. So I don't know how much of the statistics is because of a particular preference, or is it because that the applicants are of a certain number or of certain groups and so on. So I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Well, I think all of us would want to hire the best person for the job. I mean, everybody does that. I mean, I built my management team at the Port of Los Angeles, you know, seeking the best people. I had a very diverse team. And I can't answer your question specifically because every position would, you know, you'd have to look at every position. However, there were times in my own career where I was personally told, you know, we can't put you in that position because you're female. You know, and you know, I just kind of, you know, kept my nose to the grindstone. But there are a lot of us that experience those kinds of things. So there is some of that bias out there. But I don't know if any of the panelists want to comment. Let me just, and maybe as a follow-up to that, Carolina, you went and looked at the contracts for the professors where you were working, and this was rather recently, and there were some differences there. So I'm just curious now, when you discovered that, did you go to the management and did they make adjustments to it? Or did they explain why they paid you less to do the same job?
Well, it is difficult to come up like with the statistics about promotions, but in my case, well, I started to think about, well, was I learning less than my colleagues? And I started to look at the figures, and then I started to see, well, I have the same qualification. I was working in the maritime administration, so I have experience on the sector. And then I started to say, well, I'm even older than some associate professors, so how come I am an assistant professor? So at the end, well, of course, before the conference, I started to plan the conference a year in advance. And then I went to the management, and I said to the manager, and I said, why I am working as an assistant professor? And one thing that he says is that you didn't negotiate the contract, which is a very common mistake for many women, that they do not negotiate and ask for more. And the other thing is that I always thought that there should be some rules. If a professor has so many years of experience, he will be appointed either to associate or to assistant professor. So I found out, well, it seems that there are no rules. There are no rules here. And of course, before we had the conference, I already had my promotion. Because it was clear that even by being older than my female, that the male colleagues, it was
but
not right.
You had to look out for yourself. You had to look at the data and find out, oh, there's something wrong here. You assumed that, okay, I'm incoming, everyone's going to kind of get the same thing, but they weren't. And so it's not just a matter of negotiation either, but understanding the system, that there was an opportunity to negotiate and that there were differences, but nobody tells you that. You had to find out that.
I was very happy. I said, well, I'm the first South American here, the first one from a Latin American country, so I was very happy to get the job. But then I realized, so this is something for the women to think about, to ask for more, to negotiate that, but it's also to look at, well, why I'm in this position? Let me look at years of experience.
So I have a similar story to relate to that, because when I took the job at the Port of Los Angeles, my expectation was that I would get the same salary as the man who worked before me. And so I started the negotiation process and was offered an amount that was way, way lower than that. And I was shocked. I almost got up and left. And then slowly it worked its way up, and it was like taking days. And finally, I accepted the position at a significant less than what my predecessor made, with a promise in 6 months, we'll see how you do, and then we'll adjust it. So, and I did okay. 6 months later, when it came around to adjust it, that was a problem. And I always tell my friends, get it going in, because the promise of down the road is very hard to do. And it actually took like 18 months to do that adjustment. But again, I think that's another thing we learn through experience, and I tell other people, get it going in, because men typically do that, and we're just too nice, I guess, sometimes. Other questions? Well, I'd hate to have you out there first for the lunch line, but that's possible. Again, why don't we thank our panel again? It was a great discussion. Let me just mention one other thing to compliment the IAPH Board of Directors for approving a Women's Forum Scholarship as part of the training program. IAPH has had a training program in place before. It wasn't well subscribed to, but now there is a training program that will actually help get women to these IAPH conferences and help in training. So watch for more information on that if you're port directors. It's open to women that work at ports in any continent. And so please share that with your employees, and it'll be a benefit of membership of IAPH. So this session is adjourned. Thank you.